Stephanie Vaquer hospitalized after attacked by Tiffany Stratton. What happens when revenge becomes the only language left to speak? What happens when Tiffany Stratton, fresh out of the hospital herself, decides that payback is not just a dish best served cold, but a full-course meal of absolute destruction? The WWE Universe just witnessed something unprecedented because Stephanie Vaquer, one of the most talented international stars to recently join the roster, is now hospitalized after Tiffany Stratton unleashed a retaliatory assault that proves nobody is safe when Tiffy time goes dark. Welcome back to WWE Extreme, where today we're breaking down this shocking attack, why Stephanie Vaquer became the target, and how this changes everything about the current landscape of chaos in the women's division. Before we dive into this absolutely wild situation that has everyone asking what the hell is going on, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell, because the women's division has become a war zone, and you need to be here for every ambush, every retaliation, and every jaw-dropping moment. So let us talk about what just went down, because this was not on anyone's bingo card. Tiffany Stratton returned to WWE after being hospitalized by Jade Cargill, and everyone expected her to go straight after Jade for revenge. That would make sense, right? Eye for an eye. You hospitalized me, so I am coming for you. But Tiffany had a different plan, a plan that involved making sure someone else felt the pain she experienced, and that someone was Stephanie Vaquer. Now, the immediate question is why? Why would Tiffany target Stephanie, who, as far as we know, had absolutely nothing to do with the Jade Cargill situation? Here is where this gets really interesting and really twisted. Tiffany Stratton is not just seeking revenge against Jade. She is sending a message to the entire locker room. The message is simple. If I can get jumped and hospitalized for no reason, then so can anyone else. Tiffany is essentially saying that if the women's division has descended into lawless chaos where people get attacked without warning or justification, then she's going to participate in that chaos and prove that two can play at this game. Stephanie Vaquer just became the unfortunate example, the proof of concept that Tiffany Stratton is done being the victim and is now the aggressor. And the attack itself was absolutely brutal. Tiffany caught Stephanie backstage, which at this point should be designated as a hazardous work environment because nobody is safe back there anymore, and just unleashed everything she had. We're talking about the kind of aggression that comes from someone who spent weeks in pain, who had her momentum destroyed, who had to watch opportunities slip away while she recovered from injuries that were not her fault. Tiffany channeled all of that frustration and anger into Stephanie Vaquer, and the result was a beatdown so vicious that medical personnel had to immediately intervene and transport Stephanie to the hospital for treatment. Now let us talk about Stephanie Vaquer for a second, because this woman is an absolute star. She came to WWE with incredible international credentials, has been tearing it up in the ring since she arrived, and was building serious momentum as one of the most exciting additions to the roster. And now, through no fault of her own, through nothing she said or did to Tiffany Stratton, Stephanie is in a hospital bed dealing with injuries that could derail everything she has been working toward. That is not just unfortunate. That is a tragedy for someone who is on the verge of breaking through to the next level. But here is where this situation gets even more complicated. Stephanie Vaquer has her own fan base, her own supporters, her own allies in the locker room who are going to be furious that she got caught in the crossfire of someone else's vendetta. Tiffany Stratton just made enemies she did not even know existed because attacking Stephanie means attacking everyone who respects her work and wants to see her succeed. Tiffany might have thought she was sending a message about chaos and unpredictability, but what she actually did was unite a bunch of people against her who now have a common cause, making sure Tiffany pays for what she did. And let us talk about the psychology of what Tiffany is doing here, because this is actually fascinating character work. Tiffany Stratton has always been presented as the confident, bubbly, slightly arrogant rising star who believes she is destined for greatness. But getting hospitalized by Jade Cargill broke something in her. It shattered the illusion that hard work and talent are enough to protect you in WWE. It proved that sometimes, no matter how good you are or how much momentum you have, someone bigger and meaner can come along and destroy everything in one brutal moment. So Tiffany decided that if she cannot trust the system to protect her, if she cannot rely on management to ensure fair play, then she's going to make sure everyone else feels just as vulnerable as she did. But here is the million-dollar question. Does this make Tiffany a heel or a vigilante? Because on one hand, attacking an innocent person who had nothing to do with your problems is classic heel behavior. On the other hand, Tiffany is responding to a culture of violence that she did not create but was victimized by. She's essentially saying that if this is how things work now, if hospitalizing people is just what we do in the women's division, then she's going to do it too. That is not traditional heel logic. That is the logic of someone who has been radicalized by their environment. And that is way more interesting than just turning evil for no reason. Now, let us talk about the chain reaction that this attack creates, because we're not just dealing with individual feuds anymore. We're dealing with a full-blown war. Jade hospitalized Tiffany. Tiffany hospitalized Stephanie. Who is Stephanie going to hospitalize when she comes back? Who else is going to get dragged into this escalating cycle of violence? At what point does someone step in and say enough is enough? Or does WWE lean into this and let the women's division become a lawless hellscape where everyone is just trying to survive until the next episode? And here is what makes this so compelling from a storytelling perspective: the unpredictability. Nobody can predict who is going to get attacked next. Nobody can predict who is going to retaliate or how. Nobody can predict where this is all leading because it feels genuinely chaotic in the best possible way. This is not a carefully constructed storyline with clear heroes and villains. This is a powder keg that keeps exploding in different directions, and that unpredictability is what makes people tune in every single week. But let us address the elephant in the room. At some point, there has to be consequences. So when we talk about Stephanie Vaquer being hospitalized after being attacked by Tiffany Stratton, we're talking about the latest chapter in what has become the most intense and unpredictable storyline in WWE. This is a cycle of violence that keeps escalating, that keeps pulling new people into its orbit, and that has completely changed the culture of the women's division. Tiffany Stratton just proved that victims can become villains when a system fails them, and that makes for the kind of complex, morally ambiguous storytelling that wrestling needs more of. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.